Hello everyone, my today's topic is based on alkynes. So alkynes, they are represented by C triple bond, C. Now however, the alkynes have carbon atoms which are sp hybridized, and therefore they have a bond angle of 180 degrees with a linear configuration. Now let us consider this carbon atom is the C1 carbon atom and the C2 carbon atom, and I'm going to talk about how are these two bonds going to be formed. Now let us consider C1. So as we know, the carbon atom, it has an atomic number 6. We write the electronic configuration as 1s2, 2s2 and 2p2. So therefore the electronic configuration is going to be, this is 1s orbital, this is the 2s orbital, therefore it contains 2 electrons, and we are going to draw the 2p orbital which contains 2 electrons. So this is the electronic configuration of the C1 carbon atom in the ground state. Now in the excited state, what is exactly going to happen is that this electron from the 2s orbital is going to get excited, and therefore the electronic configuration, it is going to get transferred here, and therefore the electronic configuration is going to be written as since this particular electron, it has got excited and reached here, so definitely we are going to get one more electron in the 2p orbital. This is the excited state. Now we know that this is the s orbital and these all are the p orbitals. Now however, the s orbital and 1p orbital, they are taken together, and therefore they are called as the sp hybridized orbitals. And these two orbitals, they are the unhybridized orbitals. And this orbital is going to be called as the non-bonding orbital, that is, it does not take part in the formation of any bond. These electrons, they don't take part in the formation of bond. Now if we are considering C2, it is going to be the same thing as that of C1. So F1s2, 2s2, 2p2, and we know the ground state is going to have such a configuration. Now I am directly writing the excited state. So therefore the excited state configuration is going to be written as so definitely here as well we are going to get unhybridized orbitals, unhybridized p orbitals and sp hybridized orbitals. Now what is exactly going to happen is that this sp hybridized orbitals, they are going to come together, they are going to overlap, that is the sp hybridized orbital of C1 is going to overlap with the sp hybridized orbital of C2, and ultimately when there is an sp-sp overlap, we are going to get a sigma bond. Now in this particular triple bond, we have one sigma bond and 2 pi bonds. So out of all these three, we got one sigma bond by the sp-sp overlap. Now we are left with p orbitals, that is 2 p orbitals in each of the carbon atom. So therefore what is exactly going to happen is that one p orbital from the C2 and one p orbital from C1 are going to overlap together. Okay, so that's where there's going to be a pp overlap, which ultimately leads to the formation of a pi bond. And now we require one more pi bond to be formed, and there are one more p orbital in each carbon atom present. So therefore again there will be a pp overlap to form the other pi bond. Now one thing which we should remember is that whenever sigma bonds are formed, always lateral overlap does not take place, axial overlap occurs. So there is an axial overlap. There's an axial, that is the overlap along the axis occurs for the formation of the sigma bond. But if we want to form a pi bond, then definitely there will be a lateral overlap. Now how is this possible? So let us consider the formation of a sigma bond. So in the sigma bond formation, we have sp and sp hybridized orbitals. So therefore we are going to get an axial overlap, that is, this is along the axis. But in the pi bond formation, since we have p orbitals, and p orbitals they are dumbbell shaped, and we have two p orbitals, that is one p orbital from C1 and the other p orbital from C2, which are going to overlap in a lateral manner. It is not along the axis, instead it is in a lateral way. So therefore we are going to get a pi bond. So now next let us understand the methods of preparation of alkynes. So however, the first method of preparation is dehydrohalogenation of dihalides. Now dihalides, they are however of two types, okay, because dihalides, they are the compounds which contain two halogen atoms. So the dihalides, they are of two types. One is the vicinal dihalide and the geminal dihalides. So the vicinal dihalides, they are the dihalides in which the halogen atoms, they are attached to two adjacent carbon atoms, while the geminal dihalides, they are the compounds in which the halogen atoms, they are attached to the same carbon atom. So we can get alkynes from both these types of dihalides. Now the reagent which is used for the dehydrohalogenation is going to be KOH, and that too alcoholic KOH, because here we are going to do an elimination reaction. Okay, so there are mainly two types of KOH are used. One is the aqueous KOH or alcoholic KOH. Now however, the aqueous KOH, they are meant for substitution reactions, while the alcoholic KOH, they are meant for elimination reaction. So therefore we of course will use this, because dehydrohalogenation is an elimination reaction, and therefore we are going to use the alcoholic KOH. Now let us consider a vicinal dihalide, that is RCHCHR with X. So this is a vicinal dihalide, as I told, that the halogen atoms which are attached to the adjacent carbon atoms, they are the vicinal type of dihalides. And however, when it reacts with the KOH, that is alcoholic KOH, we get, so what is exactly going to happen, this K is going to go with this halogen atom, and therefore we are definitely going to get minus KX, and then definitely we are going to get H2O, because this hydrogen atom, okay, is going to bond with the OH portion of the KOH, and therefore we are going to get HOH. And this whole reaction, it takes place in the presence of heat, and however we get a double bond here, okay, since this halogen atom and this H atom are lost. So therefore we get C double bond. Here of course we will have an X, okay, and C, okay, so double bond, and therefore here we will definitely have an H and R. Now, this we didn't get an alkyne. We just got an alkene containing an halogen atom. So therefore, what are we going to do is that we are going to react it with NaNH2, and that too in the presence of heat. So now what is going to happen is that NaX is going to get lost because the sodium atom is going to bond with the halogen atom, and therefore we get NaX, while this hydrogen atom is going to bond with NH2 to give NH3, and therefore ammonia is released. And ultimately we will get a triple bond in between the carbon atoms, and therefore we are going to get an alkyne. Now we can get alkynes not only from vicinal dihalides, but also we can get it from geminal dihalides. So now let us consider a geminal dihalide, that is CH2, RCH2, CH and X. So I told you that the geminal dihalides, they contain the halogen atom which are attached to the same carbon atom. Now however, of course, this will also react with KOH, that is alcoholic KOH, and therefore in the presence of heat it is going to undergo elimination reaction. So definitely I am going to get KX and water. So now what is going to happen, the hydrogen atom from here is going to be lost, and it is going to bond with OH to give H2O, while this X is going to bond with K to give KX. So ultimately we are going to get RCH double bond CHX. Now since we know that this is an alkene, that is it is a haloalkene, we have to react it with NaNH2 in the presence of heat, and ultimately we will get RC double bond, not double bond but triple bond, because the Na is going to bond with X, which ultimately gives NaX, and this H, okay, this H, it is going to bond with NH2 which gives NH3, and therefore ammonia is released. The same reaction. Now our next reaction is the dehalogenation reaction. So however, for this dehalogenation reaction we require a tetrahalide. A tetrahalide, it is however a compound which contains 4 halogen atoms. So let us consider a tetrahalide, that is R, C, so this particular compound, it has 4 halogen atoms, and however it reacts with 2 atoms of zinc under alcoholic conditions, and therefore what is exactly going to happen is that the Zn, okay, that is the zinc, it is going to take all these 4 halogen atoms, and therefore it is going to form 2 molecules of ZnX2, and ultimately we are left with this particular part. So therefore we get C triple bond Cr, and this is an alkyne. Now our next reaction is the coal-base electrolysis. Now however, in this reaction we require a sodium salt of dicarboxylic acid. So let us consider the disodium succinate, that is now this disodium succinate, it is however going to undergo dehydrogenation, that is it is going to lose 2 atoms of hydrogen, and therefore we are going to get CH double bond CH with COONA, and now this is going to undergo the electrolysis reaction where 2 Na plus ions are formed plus CH double bond CH COO minus COO minus. So that is, this salt is going to undergo dissociation. Now it is however followed by the decarboxylation reaction, that is CO2 is lost, and therefore we are going to get acetylene. This is acetylene. It's an alkyne. Now our next reaction is the Wöhler synthesis. So however, in the Wöhler synthesis we require 1 molecule of calcium carbide and 2 molecules of water. So now let us take HOH, which we write it as water, plus calcium carbide, that is we require two carbon atoms which are attached together by a triple bond. This is calcium carbide, that is CaCa2, CaC2, sorry, plus another molecule of water. And therefore, this particular portion is going to be lost. And therefore, we are of course left with CaOH twice. Okay, that is which is going to be lost, CaOH twice. And ultimately, we are going to get acetylene. Now next let us move on towards the reactions of alkynes. So now let us consider acetylene. Now this particular molecule, if it reacts with sodium in the presence of the liquid ammonia, then we are going to get a salt with the release of hydrogen gas. Now when this same molecule, it reacts with two molecules of ammonium hydroxide, that too in the presence of Cu2Cl2, then we are going to get a compound having two copper atoms. And this will give us a red precipitate. And the byproducts for this reaction are NH4Cl and water. Now, when this molecule, it reacts with two molecules of NH4OH, and that too in the presence of silver nitrate, then we are going to get a white PPT. That is, these copper atoms, instead of getting these copper atoms here, we are going to get Ag. Okay, that is, we are going to get silver atoms. And therefore, we are going to get a white precipitate. Now, when this particular molecule, it is allowed to react with Grignard reagent, that is RMgX, then we will get an alkane. Definitely, we will get an alkane, that is RH. And therefore, this one H atom, it is going to join with R to give RH, plus this MgX is going to join with the rest of the part of acetylene. So therefore we are going to get CH triple bond C MgX with a bond between Mg and C. Now our next reaction, it is however based on the halogenation reaction. So for example, if I am taking acetylene and I am reacting it with a dihalogen, that is, which is also called as X2, that is a halide, then I am going to get a transalkene, that is, each of the X atom is going to get added to each of the carbon atom, and therefore we are going to get a trans compound, a trans-vicinal dihalide with a double bond. Now our next reaction is the hydration reaction. Now however, in the hydration reaction we are going to get an alcohol, okay, an alkene you can say, that is when H2, okay, and that too in the presence of HgSO4, that is 1% of HgSO4, then we are going to get CH2 double bond CH OH. That is, one hydrogen atom will get added to this carbon atom and the other OH group is going to get added to this carbon atom. And however, this is very unstable. This is called as the vinyl alcohol, and therefore this is very unstable, and therefore this is going to undergo something called as the tautomerization, or you can say tautomerism. And therefore here we are going to get an aldehyde that is called as the acetaldehyde. That is, what is exactly going to happen is that this H is going to get added to CH2 and this double bond is going to get lost. The double bond is going to get shifted to the O and therefore we are going to get CH3COH.